seen as possibly a deliberate choice by the Iranian military to give the Israeli forces enough time to respond before these drones hit their their targets. So this is seen as a possible a way for Iran to both simultaneously achieve two things it needs to do. One, to deliver a response, and second, to not escalate further into a full-on regional war.
Dorsa, thank you so much. I'll have to cross over to Tel Aviv. Thanks, Dorsa, for that reporting from Tehran. Hamda Salhoud joining us from Tel Aviv. Hamda, what are you hearing on your end?
Samir, hi. There is active interceptions happening here in the skies over Tel Aviv. There are sirens ringing all over Israel. There are projectiles flying in the sky, but it is a little bit difficult to point out what it is. There are explosions happening right there up. Our cameraman is getting those shots for you, but there are sirens blaring all over Israel, and it looks like there is air defense that is also coming from the opposite direction as well. Where we're standing, we have not yet heard any sirens just yet, but there are flashing lights, as you can see, active interceptions right now, projectiles here falling from the sky behind these clouds. It's quite an active situation. There have been a lot of updates from Israeli Home Front Command calling on people to go to shelters in specific areas, but there are still a lot of other interceptors that are flying from what looks like the southern part of Tel Aviv here and behind this cloud, which is a little bit difficult to see. But again, these are more interceptors that are coming up and that are being intercepted in the skies right now actively. Sirens blaring out in Tel Aviv in several different locations, and additionally all over the country. This is an active situation here. The Israeli army was warning of something like this happening, and in fact were preparing for it for several days, if not weeks. They said that they have new capabilities for not only air defense, but also for some sort of retaliation as well. There is a lot that is falling from the sky. At this point in time, we are from a high view, are on a roof kind of lookout, and a lot of these types of projectiles that we saw came from many different areas. Some of them came from the Mediterranean above our heads to behind us, and we can hear some explosions in the distance here. But again, it is hard to tell if these are the drones themselves, if these are other types of projectiles that were launched. But again, the Israeli military is actively intercepting projectiles all over Israel, not just in Tel Aviv, and there are areas all over the country. In fact, specifically in the south near Dimona, where there is a nuclear plant that the Israeli Home Front Command has told people to remain in sheltered and safe areas, meaning bomb shelters, until further notice. But where we are specifically, again, these sirens have not rung, but there are red alerts all over the state of Israel at this time, and these interceptors that are being launched by the Israeli military, again, are threefold. We have the Iron Dome missile defense system, which is the most commonly used in Israel. Then secondly, we have the David Sling, which is for medium to longer range projectiles. And then finally, the Arrow for longer projectiles, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones. The Israelis have confirmed that at least 100 drones were fired by the Iranians from Iranian territory towards Israel, but it's not really known if all of them have reached, as these sirens are now still blaring all over Israel at local time 1:47.
Hamda, I'll keep you with me for now. If you need to go at any point, you let me know. And I know that this is sort of a developing story, and you're just trying to gather as much information as you can. But from what you see, is it possible to say where they're being launched from and which areas?
Well, the Israeli interceptors are being launched from military positions. There are Iron Dome batteries and other defense systems that are stationed all over the countries, but we did see some coming off the Mediterranean, coming towards the sea to behind us, which is quite interesting. And these projectiles still in the sky here, as you can see, and there is active air defense happening all over the country there. You could see that was a live interception in the sky radiating, and a lot of this shrapnel is now going to rain down into the areas where they were intercepted. It's quite it is looks like it's in the distance, but it is quite above us. And the Israeli military, again, did give out guidelines for what to do in situations like this. Though there haven't been sirens in this part of Tel Aviv, you can still see the activity in the sky, and it is quite active. The interceptors are coming from different Israeli military bases, and again, the Iron Dome is stationed in many different locations across the country, but there are also other air defenses that are near other airfields for this type of reason specifically, and the Israeli army said that they would deploy those resources when it came to a situation like this. The Israeli army has never been faced with this type of weaponry that has entered its airspace, and as a result, they have closed their airspace. They have landed all civilian flights. The airspace is completely closed. There was roars of Israeli fighter jets in the air earlier in the evening, and it's part of this multi-layered defense mechanism that they're talking about in order to shoot down these drones and potentially these ballistic, perhaps cruise missiles that are also coming towards Israeli airspace.
Hamda, we're also hearing, and this is according to the AP news agency, and I believe that you were saying this a moment ago as well. So air raid sirens are sounded in Jerusalem as explosions are heard in the skies above. And we're looking at the live picture right now from West Jerusalem. You're speaking to us, though, from Tel Aviv. Talk us through what sort of preparations were being made by the Israeli military in anticipation of an Iranian attack. And do you think that this is what they expected?
Well, the Israelis said that they were prepared for a wide variety of scenarios, and in fact, they were ready for anything that could happen. And just this evening, Homefront Command, that is an extension of the Israeli military, had issued an abundance of new guidelines. In fact, there was a protest going on in Tel Aviv in the evening that the police had shut down because of 11 o'clock this evening. They said that there would be no gatherings of more than 1,000 people. Schools were closed.
As you can see, it's all happening. I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushai, Ba'Hasham, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and to the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the 144,000 and hopefully elect brothers and sisters of the house of Israel. As we can see, Iran has retaliated. I just wanted to give you this live update. I'm going to play a little bit more of this live news here for you to hear what's going on. So I'm not sure what you guys are getting out there in the US and around the world, but I just really wanted to just bring this to the front again. I was speaking on this afternoon on the highways and hedges, but it's all Bible prophecy. This is all Bible prophecy that we take in place. Iran is attacking Israel as we speak live right now. Iran is firing ballistic missiles and over 100 drones they're firing on their way to Israel. Some have already arrived, some are on their way. This thing is kicking off. Now, Iran also made a statement that if Israel retaliates to them and hits anywhere in Iran, then Iran is going to escalate even higher. Iran has also threatened America, so that if America gets involved in this war, then Iran is going to attack American targets in Saudi Arabia and in Iraq. So Iran has put out a public statement. They made a statement to the United Nations. They put it up on their Twitter feed. They sent the information to the United Nations. They said if Israel retaliates, we are going to hit them twice as hard. And they said if America gets involved, they're going to hit American targets in the Middle East. This is what they said. So it is kicking off. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. This is Bible prophecy. This is the fulfillment of Bible prophecy. Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Revelations. It's all happening. This is what we want to see. But as I always said to you, this war will escalate, but it won't go to where we need it to go until the mark of the beast, the microchip, kicks in. So let's listen to a little bit more of this news feed, all right? This is live.
Yeah, exactly that. For the last 10 minutes or so, we've been looking out from the balcony here across the Jerusalem skyline. We've seen a succession of air defense interceptors going up from various points around the city to meet targets in the sky. And then still going on, there's a sort of dull thud going around the skyline across the city as well as interceptions are made. About 10 minutes ago as well, the air raid siren went off, and now the police seem to be going around on the streets in their cars with an announcement going out, which we assume is telling people to go to their nearest air raid shelters as quickly as they can. So this is the situation in Jerusalem at the moment. It seems to be calmer right now, but there could well be another barrage of drones coming in and on the way. We are seeing basically Israel under attack from Iranian projectiles right now.
What sorts of advice or preparations has the government, or I mean, you were just mentioning the police telling people to go to shelters. What more have they told people to do?
Well, I mean, they've basically been telling people not to panic. They have been issuing various restrictions on movements and things like that. They have told people that they shouldn't be gathering anywhere in Israel in groups larger than 1,000 people. They've been saying that schools, universities, daycare, etc. is going to be closed for the next 2 days. And they have been saying to everyone to listen to the advice for when the air raid sirens go off, to go to those shelters and to take shelter for as long as is necessary. But the advice has been just to sort of take it calmly and not to get too worried about things. The military has been telling people that the air defense systems that Israel have, that's the Iron Dome, that is David's Sling, and that's Arrow 2 and 3, are very capable systems designed to deal with multiple types of threats. It's a layered air defense system to deal with rockets, to deal with missiles, ballistic, to deal with missiles that are cruise missiles, and to deal with drones as well. And that is what we're likely to be seeing over the next few minutes and hours as these different waves of projectiles come in. The big test, of course, is for this layered air defense system. Can it cope with an assault of this magnitude? Because this is not something that Israel has faced before on this scale. It has its assistance coming from the United States, providing Overwatch, providing electronic jamming, electronic warfare, and shooting down projectiles before they even get to Israeli airspace. But this, as I say, is a test that Israel has not faced before on this scale.
Rory, it's Darren Jordan here. I've just taken over from Dareen, so you're with me now for the next few hours. For those viewers, Rory, who are just joining Al Jazeera now to take in this developing story as it's happening, talk us through again what you're hearing from Israeli Army Radio, from officials there, about the incoming drones, because we're hearing, as you've been telling us throughout the evening, it may also include different air threats like missiles as well.
Yeah, so the first that we heard was that a barrage of dozens of Iranian drones have been launched from Iranian territory. Now, what we know about the Iranian drones in use are that they are the Shahed 136. Now, this has been used extensively by the Russians, bought from the Iranians. It's been used by the Russians in Ukraine. The 136 has a warhead of 50 kilograms, so it's not huge, but it's certainly not insignificant. It can do quite some damage when it actually reaches its target. But the way that these drones are used, as they're used as a kind of saturation tool, you might not get many through, but it will exhaust the air defense systems, certainly of the Ukrainians' air defenses, which are nowhere near as capable as the Israeli ones. And that's when the Russians, certainly in Ukraine, use their cruise missiles and their ballistic missiles. Once the drones have exhausted air defense, then those missiles can hit their targets more easily. This is a different situation because Israel's air defenses are much, much more sophisticated and more numerous in number. They've got a web, a net that's been built up over many years, layering different types of air defense on top of each other. But we understand that there are cruise missiles on the way as well, and also that Hezbollah in Lebanon has been launching rockets into the Golan Heights, that the Houthis have been launching drones too. So this is a multi-phased, multi multi-pronged attack on Israel with numerous different types of aerial threat. And that's the big test.
Yeah, Rory, and tell us a bit more for those viewers who are just joining us now about the military and air defense preparations that Israel's been making over the last week or so, because Israel knew this was coming, and Israel, of course, is very technologically advanced in its air defense capabilities, as you've been telling us.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, Israel knew something was coming. They didn't know exactly what it was going to be, so they had to prepare for whatever Iran chose to throw at it. And so in the immediate days after that strike on the Iranian complex in Damascus.
So anyway, so listen, as you can see, it's happening. It's all happening. Iran is doing exactly what they said they were going to do. So now we have to see if Israel is going to retaliate and fire missiles back onto Iranian territory, actually into Iran. This is what we're going to wait and see if that's what they're going to do. All right, we want to see if they're going to fire missiles back into Iran. Apparently, the Iranians have also fired ballistic missiles towards the place called Dimona. Dimona is where they've got their nuclear power plants in Israel, basically. So apparently they fired nuclear missiles, not nuclear missiles, sorry, Salaki, ballistic missiles, and they're targeting Dimona. Now, Dimona, believe it or not, that's where they've got those the Jakes, the Israelites that came from America, the Benamin people that came from America, that came from Chicago. That's where they all live. They all live right next to that nuclear. They put the real Israelites in Israel. The Israelis put them on the land. They put them in Dimona, right next to the nuclear power plants and the nuclear sites that are in Israel. That's where they live. The ones that came from Chicago, the Benamin crew, right? The Hebrew Israelites that came from America to go and settle in Israel. That's where they live, in Dimona. And Dimona is where the nuclear power plant is. And that is where the Israelis, that's where the Iranians have also apparently fired missiles that are on their way to Dimona. Now, whether they're going to hit Dimona, whether they're going to be able to take them out of the sky, because the Israelis have sent up all of their F-35 jets into the air to try to counter the attack. You see, the Iranians are very clever, because what they do, they will use their drones they will fire hundreds of drones to Israel for them to waste out their anti-air missiles, their ballistic missiles, their anti-air missiles. So they'll cause the Israelis to use up all of their anti-air missiles by sending in all of these drones, right? Because it will exhaust the Iron Dome system. So the Iron Dome system that Israel has, it's got all these anti-air missiles, but they'll be wasted trying to knock out the drones out of the sky, because the drones are smaller. So the Iranians are very clever in what they did in doing that, basically, as such. So we're going to see exactly where all this goes. Will Israel retaliate on Iran? Will America retaliate on Iran to assist the Israelis? Because right now the Americans are helping the Israelis knock these out of the sky. So we're going to see if they're going to do that. So yeah, that's the devil. They're all sitting there. That's the devil.
Israeli officials say the response will be firm and clear, and have called Iran's attack a severe and dangerous escalation. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has rushed back to Washington. He's currently monitoring the situation with his national security team at the White House. Well, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, and Israel have all temporarily closed their airspace. Here's a diagram of all that. It comes after early reports of interference with the GPS navigation systems. Well, we have a team of correspondents covering the story. We start in Tehran with Dorsa Jabari.
So check this out. The airspace is closed where? The airspace is closed over the Valley of Jehoshaphat in the Middle East, in that barren and desolate land. That's where all of the airspace is closed, all over the Middle East, in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Let's just hear what she has to say.
Darren, I think this is first a explanation being provided by Iran's permanent mission to the world, in invoking Article 51 of the UN Charter, which states the country's right to self-defense, but also saying that the matter is concluded, hinting that should there be any further escalation, it is on the part of the Israelis that it would come, and also warning the United States that they should stay away from this conflict, that this is between Israel and Iran, and that they should not get involved. So a few things to take away from this post on X by Iran's permanent mission. It's certainly from what we've been hearing over the past few hours. First, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, who are carrying out this attack against Israel, calling this mission a true promise. That is the name of it. They say that they've launched drones and missiles towards Israel as a result of their aggression, and that this decision was made by Iran's Supreme National Security Council, which convened shortly after that attack on Iran's consulate section in Damascus that killed 7 Revolutionary Guard officials, including Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, one of the inner officials within the country's establishment. But of course, this wasn't the only incident that led to what we're seeing tonight, that attack on Iran's consulate section, which Iranians called an act of war by Israel, a declaration of war, but also an attack on Iran's soil. The Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei had warned repeatedly over the past 12 days since that attack took place that Iran will respond decisively, and that it will be Israel will be made to regret what they did. Israeli forces have carried out strikes in Syria since October 7th repeatedly and killed 18 Revolutionary Guard officials since then alone. But of course, that is not the only time that they've targeted senior Iranian officials. We saw a number of attacks on nuclear scientists in Iran over the past decade, with the last one, high-ranking Fakhrizadeh was assassinated in Tehran, and Iran blamed Israel for that attack. But Iran didn't directly target Israel until tonight. This is the first time in the country's history that Iran has taken such a decisive action, but it seems to be fairly limited. First of all, there was communication back and forth between Iran and the United States, Iranian officials making it very clear that they don't want a full-on confrontation with the West, and that what they're going to do is have a precise and limited action against Israel, and that the Iranian foreign minister just tonight posted on his X account that the United States had sufficient warning in advance about what was to come. So there's no surprises about what is happening tonight.
Dorsa, there was a lot of speculation, wasn't there? We were talking to you earlier, particularly coming in from the United States, about when and where the retaliation would take place. But Iran remained pretty silent about how they would respond. So was this specific kind of attack expected? Because they've even given it a name, haven't they, for the operation?
Yes, True Promise is the name. And they did say that this was coming without specifying exactly what kind of an attack would take place. It was noteworthy over the past 10 days or so. We didn't hear a lot
being heard throughout Israel, some of the missiles and drones being intercepted. So for our viewers who are just joining us, that's what they're seeing in those boxes outside of you and I talking. And for the viewers who are just joining us now, remind them why Iran had to respond in this way, because Iran saw the Damascus attack as a direct assault on its sovereignty, on its territory. Did they have no option but to respond in this way?
Well, many here believe that they didn't. If they didn't directly respond to Israel, this kind of behavior by Netanyahu's government and the military in Israel will continue. There's been targeted assassinations of Iranian officials, not only in Syria, Lebanon, but also inside Iran. There's been a number of nuclear scientists who have been assassinated inside the country, and Iran has repeatedly blamed Israel for them. Now, this is something that the Iranians have never considered until now, but it seems that an attack in Damascus was the final straw for the Iranians. And of course, we have to remember that this country's history, the long war that it was engaged in with Iraq.
The Houthis also attacking in the Red Sea. This is a very, very well coordinated series of attacks by Iran, trying to make a clear point to Israel.
Yeah, Sean, let's just stick with the issue of the drones. What do we know then about these Shahed drones that are now coming in over Israel and being intercepted? I mean, their range, their speed, their warheads, their payloads, etc. Because we know that they've also been used by the Russians in the war with Ukraine.
Yes, I mean, from a military perspective, they're not that capable. I mean, they're about the same.
Listen, I'm going to leave it there. Just keep your eyes posted because, like I said, it's all kicking off. There's no turning back now. We're going to see if they're going to respond, basically, on that. So we all know what's happening, where it's at. Just keep your eyes posted. It's just gone midnight here in the United Kingdom. I know it's still early there in the US. In Europe, they're ahead of us by a couple of hours. If brothers are watching in Europe, they're a couple of hours ahead of us in the UK. So we'll see. By the morning, we'll see what's happened. We'll know. But in the next 3 or 4 or 5 hours, we'll know if Israel has retaliated. So just keep your eyes on the news, brothers. As I always say, keep praying, keep safe, repent, and hold on to this truth, family, because things are developing exactly how the prophets said, how Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai says they will develop. But we always remember that the war can't go to a nuclear war until the mark of the beast, the microchip, is in play. But these are the hands that, like it says there, the king's heart is in the hands of the Lord as the rivers of water. He turneth it whatsoever he will. And he's turning the hearts, which are the minds of the kings, to do his will. And this is what we are seeing taking place. So let's hope Israel does retaliate, because it just gets us to the next stage. These are all stages that we need to get to before the second coming of our Lord Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. As always, shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises.